My friend Drew Wiard flies a paramotor called Betty the Butt Fan. He's a former pharmacist, executive, business owner, and real estate investor. But his one of his most recent businesses has failed. How do you manage the anxiety when your business is falling apart? What do you say to your kids when this is happening during your toughest times? Drew learned a lot about bringing two different businesses, two different cultures together. And fortunately, he got a second chance, and he's doing it completely different the second time. It wasn't easy, but Drew is now thankful for the suffering he went through during his darkest and his most difficult times. Listen in to learn why. Hello and welcome to the Purpose Matrix. I am very excited for today's guest, Mr. Drew Wiard. Drew, my buddy, my man, how are you doing today?
I'm good, brother. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Drew and I have known each other for, 4 years or so, and gotten to know each other really well over the last couple of years specifically. He was on my podcast, the originally Muller Real Estate podcast, I think close to 2.5 years ago. Drew, there's been a lot going on for you in the last 2 years, so this is going to be a completely different discussion, I suspect. But before we get into that, a little bit about Drew. So, man of faith, father, husband, business owner, has, grew up in real estate, but done some other businesses as well. We're going to get into that, and really redirected as of late back to commercial real estate. But in that process, there's a lot of good things that have happened. Drew, you've done really, really well, but there's also been some failures, some setbacks, some just, ups and downs, emotions, all kinds of things over the last couple of years that you've gone through and you've learned from and you've grown from. So just high level, what have you been up to the last couple of years?
Yeah, I appreciate the intro. There's a lot of kind words there. I think you nailed it. We've done a lot the last couple of years. Tried some things. Some went really, really well. Some have not gone so well. But the last 2-3 years have really been a season of a lot of personal growth, a lot of just different, not just lessons and hard things to go through, but just learning more about myself and how I deal with things. And I'm now that I'm on the other side of that season, I'm really grateful for it just because all that has kind of teased out of it. But I've been really fortunate to have a lot of good people come around me and support me. You're certainly one of those, and some of the tools that you bring to the table. But you tell me where we want to jump into it, but happy to share.
There was a lot of discussion. There still is a lot of discussion about, hey, real estate was getting heated up, price, overpriced, things like that. And you shifted to, I'd say general business, kind of private equity thought, but buying businesses. There's a lot of talk of, buy boring businesses, things like that. So you shifted.
Yep.
Why did you shift? Why did you want to shift? And how did that go, I guess?
Yeah, really good question. So I've done real estate for a long time, 10 years or so, and it has treated me very well. And it's not even that I necessarily pumped the brakes on real estate, but we supplemented our efforts by acquiring a couple of businesses. And the thinking was that real estate's a slow game, right? You park your money, it's passive income, you let it grow. And so with the business ownership side, the thought was, let's spool up cash flow fairly quickly, and then we'll go hide it or place it in tax advantaged, slow real estate side. And so real estate's always been there. It hasn't gone away. Even today on the other side, it is absolutely still where my heart is. And we do a lot of that today. But my partner and I, Tyler, who gets a lot of credit for a lot of things, but excellent partner, good man for sure. He and I acquired a manufacturing business and started down that journey. And we can kind of tell you where that went, or you tell me what you'd like to tease out of that. But that was kind of the shift, is we added business ownership.
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about that shift and what you learned from it. But before I do, one thing that I wrote down that I think is relevant to a lot of people is, and this will come out, is you knew real estate, you knew commercial real estate, but you went in a different direction, and that didn't go great. But for a lot of people listening, they do have a business that isn't around real estate, and it is going well. And your general strategy, what you wanted to do was buy businesses, operate a business that generate a lot of income, a lot of cash flow, and then park it in tax advantage real estate. So I think, maybe I'm biased, I think that's a great strategy if you know the business, if you know that
Right.
business, if that's what you're focused on. So I think your idea was great. And I think for a lot of listeners, if you have a specific niche, a specific business where you're generating a lot of income, a lot of cash flow, Drew's not saying stop that. We're not saying stop that, go do real estate. Instead, we're saying no, generate cash flow. Just know that real estate is a nice tax incentive, long-term wealth creation vehicle that you can use. So I wanted to highlight that because I think the strategy is good. So why didn't it work great for you?
Yeah, well, I would tell you to really simplify it, it kind of came in two phases. So my partner Tyler and I bought the first of these manufacturing businesses, and that was a good operation. It was doing very much what we wanted it to. And we were one of two of these type of businesses in the Detroit market. And there was the other competitor who we worked to be friendly with and built a nice relationship. And to make a very long story short, we wound up merging with that other company. That other owner was just a single owner. He'd owned his shop for 30 plus years. Good guy, nice guy to this day. I like him very much. But when we came together, that's where some of the rockiness started to happen. And there's kind of a mixture of just the economics of, 2024, 2025, but then maybe just the chemistry between Tyler and I, very strong partner that are very aligned, and this other gentleman that we just wound up being misaligned on.
What about just outside of that, meshing and merging two manufacturing businesses together? What did you learn? Like, what were the challenges associated with that?
Well, and I think honestly, you're hitting the nail on the head. I think anytime you bring two companies together, these are two long-term, long-operating companies that there was some good collaboration between each other, but it's also competitive, right? This company versus that one. And so we knew that it would be tough to try to blend two cultures together. And we started out as being two satellite facilities because there were enough differences that, the East Campus did this and the West Campus did that, and not too big a deal. But, with the headwinds of the market and what we saw with wage inflation and things like that, when you bring two companies together, clearly you're going to try to find the efficiencies, right? You keep the best equipment, you sell off the old stuff. You keep as many employees as you can, but you keep the best, strongest employees. And if you need to trim the fat, then you do with some of the others. And so it was really where we found our misalignment, really on how do we bring those cultures together. And we could maybe go down that rabbit hole if we wanted to. But I would say when people talk about trying to blend two cultures, especially ones that have been in competition for a very, very long time, it is every bit as challenging as people will tell you that it might be.
Well, and one thing I think what stands out is that the word you chose to use about the two different companies, that the hardest part to blend is the culture. So I think if we go there a little bit, building like culture of your business, this doesn't need to apply to you in that you're buying a business and trying to blend two cultures. It's just that what's so critical about your business, the first thing Drew thought of is culture. Culture is so important. So I guess maybe let's just talk about that. Like, what did you see? Not about business A or business B or the misalignment. What did you just see about the culture? Like, you saw two very different cultures. What were the best things about, the combination of those that you saw or would want to highlight? What made those cultures, like what made them good if there was good elements of the culture?
Yeah, both of those companies had very key characteristics that were strengths and then maybe some weaknesses. So I would say the first company that Tyler and I bought, their strength was they had they were ISO certified, so highly regimented, highly efficient, quality control was paramount. The product that went out of the shop was top tier essentially every single time. By contrast, the other business had a lot of other strengths. One of them being their sales and relationships with their customers. They had a much more diverse customer base. So not as much customer concentration as maybe the other company. And they had just been in it a very, very long time and had deep roots in the community. So a little more relationship based, but they were not ISO certified. And that's not to say that the quality wasn't there. It was just a different approach to where their focus was. You know, one business was much more top of funnel relationship, bringing business in the door, and the other one relied on a smaller customer base, but the quality was everything.
So as you talk about your next phase, I don't want to go there yet, but I want to come back to this later. Is the two things I heard is discipline and relationships. And if you build something new or you're building something, if you can have discipline in operations and relationships with both your customers and internally, those are two pretty strong elements of the culture. So yes. I want to come back to that maybe, but there was a lot of challenges in this business overall. We're not going to go through all the specifics of the challenges, but this was not an easy road for you personally, emotionally, mentally. Like, tell us about that process.
Yeah. Well, and to kind of transition from the blending of the two into the struggle, when you have two companies, they're very different culturally. If you have one leader or one leadership team, that person or that team, they can set the expectation, or they can begin building the culture or redeveloping, slowly bringing in new culture, right? Whereas if you have two leaders that are very polar, you're going to be kind of in competition with each other. So, when Tyler come in and we're 50% and this other gentleman comes in and he's 50%, if we're not aligned, the company will never be aligned. And so to kind of get to your point or your question about the personal journey through that, I've spent 20 years in hospital admin leadership, which is very different than blue collar manufacturing leadership, especially, gritty Detroit, can't be defeated atmosphere. Right. And so it was a challenge for me and us, the three of us as a leadership team, to get all on the same page on here's the problem. Here's we're going to fix it. Here's problem number 2. How we're going to fix that one. And so just from a leadership perspective, there was a lot of just struggle at the top end. And so, as business slowed, as expenses went higher, and even though we found efficiencies as time went on and, stopped the hemorrhaging and got kind of back to even at least, or back to profitability, it was very difficult for the three of us to lead together. And that's not a judgment at any one of the three of us, but misalignment was really at the core of that. And so that was a journey for me that I had to figure out how to navigate.
I'm excited to talk about, okay, as you build this new thing, how do you create alignment, not misalignment? But how did you feel during this process, Drew? Like personally, not business, but personally, how was that?
Honestly, it was very difficult for me. Again, you and I spent some good time together. You were a good resource for me and a good sounding board, as were a number of other guys. But it was, so the economics were tough, right? It's tough when your business is losing money, right? It's tough to have to go and say, hey, we have to cut 30% of staff. It's tough when you say, top of funnel's really low. We need sales to do X, and really, really push that sales team. So a lot of these things were just different realities for me. The most challenging piece, though, I think, was being at odds with this other owner, where neither of us were trying to, flex over the other one or play the power card. But we came to this point where we knew that if we all stayed in the same room, we're going to kill the company. So one of us is going to have to start to back off. And he wasn't going to do that. This was his everything for 32 years. He's not going to do that. And so Tyler and I had to start taking deliberate choices to step back while we start, maybe it's a mediation process, maybe it's a buyout, and that whole journey. And so I'm compressing about 18 months into about a 3-minute summary, but there were some dark days for sure. I don't know that you would call it failure, but it felt like failure to me, and trying to process through, okay, I have SBA debt. How am I going to pay that off? It's tethered to my home. What comes next after this? How do I navigate this one? It was a lot. And I in that season, I learned a lot about rumination, which had never really been a thing for me. But just getting in my head, being in my head. And so that just touches maybe a little bit on my journey.
I remember a specific conversation where you said, look, Phil, I'm not an anxious person, but you were flirting with anxiety. Would you, I mean, you are, and from knowing you, you're not an anxious person at all.
No.
You just are pretty calm, cool, and collected, but you were flirting with anxiety. So for people that maybe they're naturally more anxious and they are like, they're there, like they have anxiety. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, no, that was a very real thing. I sleep like the dead. And in that season, I would fall asleep just fine, but I'd be up at 3 a.m. because my subconscious was trying to fix problems in the background. And the most miserable part of that was, as Tyler and I had to step away so we didn't kill the business and lose the livelihood of all these people that were involved, is my brain would go into fix it mode, but I'm not in a place to fix it until we figure this buyout out or until we figure out mediation. And so there was a very long season of, I'm going to have to figure out how to sit in this, misery is a heavy word, but sit in this anxiety or this desire to fix when it's outside of my control, and learning to kind of come to peace with that. And that is a muscle that I think we all have, but I had never really had to flex it or use it at all. And that is to say, to sit in a season of pain or loss or discomfort and not lose all the other things, the church, the God, the family, the wellness, all those other things.
First of all, I love the word. I think the word misalignment that we talked about is so important. But I also have an acronym, and we're all broken men. But one of the things that I think we all struggle with is control, and understanding what we control and what we don't control, right? We don't control people and situations, and we don't completely control outcomes. What we control is just how we live. That's it.
That's right.
Pretty easy, but maybe pretty simple, but not easy, especially when the people in the situation is threatening, maybe your livelihood, maybe your families, maybe your home you're living. I mean, we're creating probably even creating a lot of stories in our head about the future that may or may not come true at that time when we're just waking up at 3 a.m. and we're trying to solve all these problems that we can't do. And I think it's Mark Twain, like, I've had a great deal of worries in my life, or a great deal of problems in my life, most of which have never happened. But we're sitting there trying to solve all these things that we can't control. And I like it, but I can't say I've been in a situation where I don't have a choice. I have very, very, very limited control. Like, I like to think, okay, we have like extreme ownership, we have influence, but you really didn't have that much influence at all in this situation. I mean, you had control over how you were living. Were you able to get content or become content with what you were doing and let go?
When you say content, if we're talking about content with life in general, I had to lean into things that I knew were good for me. So getting to the gym helped a lot. I fly paramotors and I do some extreme sport things. I did not want to go fly, but I forced myself from time to time to go fly because, the world's a lot prettier from 5,000 feet than it is on the ground sometimes.
You got to check out some of his videos, by the way. You got to find Drew on Facebook or we'll ask him later. But I mean, he's paramotor, but you're nuts, man. But anyway, I digress. Pictures look awesome. I'm glad you're taking them. I think I don't know about the heights thing, but you guys got to check him out because it's pretty neat what he does. He does these crazy tricks and flips and all kinds of stuff. Is it still Betty the Butt Fan?
That's it. Yep.
Oh my gosh.
You got it.
Yeah. Anyway, you got to check that out. But you got away from it, and I did. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think, in that moment, in kind of that darkest day, you have to find the things that are good for you and kind of force your way through it. I'm really grateful. My wife was very good to me in that season. She could have beat me up and made me feel guilty about it, and that was not the case. My family and kids were great with it. But if someone would have given me an off-ramp in that moment where they said, okay, you're headed for bankruptcy, just make it happen, or like just write a massive check to make it go away, I probably would have taken those options just to get out of that season. And looking back now, 2 years down the road or 18 months down the road, whatever it is. Now we're riding a rocket ship to the moon on the other things. And we can talk about that if you want. But if someone would have given me the option to just put a bullet in the thing, I would have taken it. And it would have been such a mistake because I did not have the ability to sit in that agony for a season and learn how to deal with it. And since then, I've had a couple of deaths around me. I've had some other darkness and stuff that has come along where I've said, look, this hurts real bad today, but just sit in it. Lean into all the other positive things that you have, but you will be okay. You can't rush. Sometimes you can't rush the process of getting to someplace better.
Well, right now, we talk about this right now in this moment, when you look back 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, you are thankful for the suffering that you had. Thank goodness for it. But if you could have went back and said, hey, can I just get rid of this and be on the other side of this right now without the growth that comes from it, you would have chose that. I'm reading Romans right now, and he talks about how suffering creates resilience, which creates character, which creates hope, which I think the more hope we have for then things and, our goals as business leaders, outcomes, things that we want, success, the reality is the hope for those things is going to probably create more suffering, which will create more resilience, which will create more character. So, and there's a cycle there, and you wanted to get out of that cycle at that time, but the fact that you're in it, you're thankful for now. So I just think that's a nice connection. I was just writing and thinking about that a little bit this morning.
Yep.
So you have a lot of lessons you learned from business during that time period. And as you started to get out of that, you started to think about the next thing, and you're kind of, as you said, on a rocket ship right now. We've talked about it. It's just really neat to see when you started thinking about, okay, what's next? You and Tyler have a great relationship, a great business partner. What are the first things you tried to get in place as you plan for the next step?
Sure. So just to give a little context, even when we bought those businesses, we still owned quite a bit of buy and hold real estate. And Tyler and I had started to move towards commercial, had a little bit of office, a little bit of mixed use, a little bit of industrial, but we got good at industrial. But we would just buy, one building every 6 months. It was not an afterthought, but they were just investments in the background while we worked this business, right? Well, when we made the decision to say, okay, look, we're going to step back so this business doesn't implode, we decided to go full throttle on industrial commercial real estate. And so for the last 18 to 24 months now, probably 18 months, that has been the main hustle. That's the one thing that we're wholly and completely after. And that's also been a personal exercise, is learning how to take my hands out of all the other pots that I had my hands in. Cause I like to have lots of things cooking and multiple streams of income. But I think that has kept me from being exceptionally good at the one thing that I'm working on. And so that's kind of another part of the season that I'm in, is going after one thing, an inch wide and a mile deep on one thing.
And I think for a lot of people listening, entrepreneurial business owners, business leaders that are trying, maybe visionaries that have all these different ideas. The first, I want to ask you other lessons that you've taken from your past businesses and applied to this as you created it. But the first lesson is, what is your one thing, right? Like you talked about earlier, buying businesses that generated cash flow to put into long-term real estate and tax advantaged. That didn't work for you because you didn't find a different. It was a two-pronged approach, or maybe differing strategies where the business didn't become the one thing. But a lot of owners, a lot of business leaders now, they have their one thing. They have their income and revenue generating vehicle. So I think it's a strategy to do that, and then park it in real estate, of course. But the one thing, I guess, concept I think people really need to think about, like if you're really, really good at a thing in a business, it probably doesn't make sense to do the opposite and go start real estate as a second thing versus focus on what you're really good at and then maybe park it in real estate, right? But the one thing was a lesson. What were any culture, values, leadership team, like just what you're trying to do? Like what other lessons did you say, okay, as we build this next thing, what are we going to apply because of the mistakes we made? Why are we going to do it different?
Yeah, really good question. So I would say risk mitigation is much more top of mind today than it was back then. And not that we were careless or risky, but when you have a multi-million-dollar SBA loan that's going to be called if you don't just write a check for it, it's just not a position you ever want to be in again. So as we're building in the real estate space, we don't have to necessarily get into specifics or strategy around that. But for us, it's multiple buildings in multiple cities, multiple markets. Like we're spreading that risk all over the place so that if you own 20 buildings and 2 of them go dark, it's okay. Or if one community just gets shellacked because there's a chemical spill or, something wild happens, it's not going to bring down the entire house. So risk mitigation, I think, has been a real key piece. I think the other thing is Tyler and I really took time to step back and say, okay, what do we want life to look like? If we're building new, what should life look like? Like, what are our guiding principles? What are our values? Who do we want to be in 10 years? What do we want our families to look like and our availability? And let's build for that. And I've been really proud of us in what we've created because I think it is pointing directly at that.
That's amazing. So first of all, risk mitigation, I like that. And there's diversification. There's also, you guys don't run into it, but if you're bringing on new people, partnerships, like I think one thing is having either control of the business or access to control of business if there's partnerships. To me, the other just big risk mitigation is knowledge. Like your knowledge of this space is so good. So I think understanding the downside and protecting that, I think, is really important as you start. The other thing, and then on the values and the principles, if there's someone that is starting a business, so maybe they're not buying maybe they're buying a small business, or maybe they're thinking about starting a business, whether it's real estate or any other business. Landscaping, pest control, a service-based business, roofing, all these different things that we always talk about. Maybe we'll start someday too, and do we vertically integrate? But if people are thinking about all these things, if we start those things, what would you say to us as we build the values and principles? Like, tell us more about that process. How did you guys even facilitate that process?
Yeah, sure. I think if you're trying to choose the line of business that you want to be in, I think it's critically important that you are some sort of subject matter expert or have a competitive advantage in that space. We did not in manufacturing. We had lots of leadership and engineering experience, but we didn't know that niche. So I would caution people, like whatever you get into, to make sure that you have a set of skills that are uniquely pointed towards that. And Tyler and I have that after 15 years of, collective commercial real estate. So that made sense as to what direction we wanted to go. But as far as if you have a partner, it's easier because you can just sit and you riff back and forth, right? You order a pizza and you're just like, okay, yes, this, no to that, whatever. But man, if you can begin with the end in mind, like, okay, how much passive income do you want to have 10 years from now? Okay, how much do you want to have? Okay, why do you want that, right? Is it because you want this kind of car? Do you want this type of freedom? Is it because you want to travel? Is it, I think those are the big picture questions that people need to ask. And if you go 7 layers deep on, okay, why? Why do you want that? Why do you think that you want that? It never winds up being about money. Like you say, I want to build this, and it throws off, $250,000 a year, or, pick your number, $1 million a year, whatever it is. When you ask why you want that, and if you get really honest and go down through it, it's usually because you want time with your family, or you'd like to be able to vacation whenever you want, or you want to be generous at the church through your faith and things like that. It rarely comes down to the money. And so that was a good exercise for us, for sure.
What 10 years from now, values, principles, life to look like 10 years from now. But we talked earlier about you didn't want to get out. You at the time you wanted to get out of the hard life that you were living. I'll use that word.
Sure.
Did you try, are you trying to design an easy life? Or, you know what I mean? How do you balance, I want to go after it. I want to be doing something. Yeah. I want to be growing something. I want to be having an impact.
That's a good question. I would not use the word easy life. I'm pursuing fulfillment. I want a fulfilling life. And there are going to be, and it's going to come in seasons. Unfortunately, I'm old enough now where I've seen seasons where I want to hustle like a maniac because it's fulfilling to build, to create, to give, to be generous, right? There are other seasons where I need to slow down and enjoy this moment in time. And the type of business that we've built gives us the flexibility to do both of those things, where we can ramp up and kind of ramp down as the seasons come. So I wouldn't say I want an easy life. I think the
hustle is going to be way more enjoyable when you know you have the option to be hustling or not.
Yes, that's exactly where I was going. Yep.
You also are thinking about how do you build this business. You know, you're applying your subject matter expertise from both you and Tyler. Kind of creates a competitive advantage for you guys, right? Because you're just knowledge and years in the industry, along with all the other lessons from real estate and other businesses that you can apply. You're getting aligned on values, what you want life to look like. That isn't easy, but fulfilling. How can you give back? How can you serve? Tell us a little bit more about where you're at with that, what that may look like.
Yeah, sure. we've always been a church family. We've always gone, and I would say that my faith has been pretty strong. Admittedly, I had to lean on it real hard during some of those dark seasons. But one thing that I did not anticipate is when we bought the business in Detroit, we'd go up once a month for 3 or 4 days. And so it wasn't too bad. I wasn't gone very much. When the business really went sideways, I was up there every week, 4, maybe 5 days a week. And of course, that takes a toll on the family and things like that. But it really hampered my ability to be in church or commit to like anything. Could still go on Sundays if I'm home, but like I can't be part of this ministry, or I can't play music. Like I play the drums and bass and stuff. I can't play on Sunday if I'm not there to practice on Thursday, that sort of stuff. And so I realized that like, man, that really created a hole in my life where like ministry and serving was a really important thing that I was missing out at. So being able to come back home, be present for that has been a huge win. Also, there's lots of spiritual gifts and things like that. I'm a firm believer in tithing and tithing, in my opinion, is a matter of obedience. That's not generosity. That's do what God calls us to do. But then beyond that, I find that generosity is a big deal to me. And whether it's at the church or even in your community and things like that, even in the last couple of years where there's a very significant season of loss, I've been very pleased with my wife and I's focus on staying generous, not only tithing, but generosity for the things that motivate us and we feel are important.
Spiritual gifts. Tell me what those are.
So yeah, I only chuckle because I'm learning and growing right along with everybody else, right? I'm certainly not a preacher, but the Bible speaks pretty openly about, there's different giftings that we all have. There's the body of Christ, and some people are the feet and some are the hands and some are the head. And there's different giftings that we have, and we've been called to give. If prophecy is your gift, then prophesy. If it's to feed the poor, then feed them generously, things like that. And so I'm not an evangelist. I'm not probably the guy who's going to go downtown and stand on the box and shout the good word for everyone. That's just not my personality. But God has given me the ability to create abundance in my life from time to time. And when I can do that, I am drawn to funnel that back to the church. And so kind of that spiritual gift of generosity, that's, I think, how it manifests for me.
As you think about the next 10 years, and as you bring this all together, like what are you, of all of that, of everything you're doing, what are you really, really excited about right now?
I'm excited about a number of things. I have a couple of very exciting flying opportunities that are very unique that most pilots don't get. So I'm going to be leaning into those here in the next year. I'm very excited about the business that Tyler and I have built. And very, very quickly, it's basically an industrial real estate fund where Tyler and I have been buying our own for a while. We've done some joint venture partnerships. We officially have the fund. And so it's really a platform for people, a lot of business owners, people just like you guys who, they want to work over here. They want to own real estate, but they don't want the debt risk. They don't want to have to work it, right? So we give them the opportunity to invest in those projects. And so that's going incredibly well. I'm really grateful for that. It's also fun to see my kids, like my kids are on the older end, right? They are 17 through 25. And so it's been really gratifying to see them start to go out into the world and just be good people. You know, I mean, everyone thinks their kids are the best, but it's awesome to just see them, you know, taking care of themselves, being active in the community. And that's been really fulfilling.
Well, I think they have a pretty phenomenal role model. That what's interesting though is, again, over the last couple of years, you talked about your family being there for you and like being supportive. And like, I mean, you talked with them, by the way, you talked with them fairly transparently about everything that was going on. Is that right?
It is. And honestly, it's one of the things I can look back at and be really, really proud, because I was getting crushed and our life was about to change financially. And I just had to go to them and sit down and say, look, I rolled the dice on this. It's gone sideways for reasons that are outside of my control, but we're going to have to change. And I want you to know why. But I want you to watch me through this, because I had no idea how I'm going to get through it. But I can tell you I'm going to come out the other side and there will be lessons to learn. So watch how it goes, because I don't know that I'll do it all right, but eventually the day will come where you'll get divorced or you have a child that is sick or something like that, and you'll have tragedy and you'll need to know how to navigate these waters. So watch me. And it was just a good family moment and has continued to be as they've watched.
What has kind of been the result of them watching, and what are some takeaways that you think you're observing in them from that?
You know, I went on a walk with my daughter the other day and we were kind of talking about that season and what a wild ride it was and all of that. And I asked her, I said, so how scared were you? You know, how do you feel like it messed you up or it scarred you or anything? Because we're always worried, you know, are we messing our kids up? And she said, no, I mean, you were honest and I knew you were going to figure it out. You know, you kind of just said, this is where we're at. And you spoke with enough confidence that I knew it was going to be fine. And even if it wasn't going to be fine, we were going to be fine.
Like transparency and authenticity with our kids is a very good thing to talk about our struggles and challenges, because if you just put on the facade that everything's great all the time, everything's okay, they start to build this expectation that life has to be perfect for them all the time, right? Whereas if you are open and transparent about challenges, issues, like, hey, we're human, we're broken, we're going to have problems, we're going to have issues, they're going to come up, but what are we going to lean on? Who are we going to lean on in those hard times? Because they're going to happen. If you can have those conversations with your kids about your struggles, do you want your kids to come to you and to have those conversations with you when they're going through those struggles, when they're going through those hard times? And you've opened up the line of communications like, hey, I'll share with you guys. You didn't say share with us too. Maybe you did. But I'm going to share with you guys, you're modeling, you're being the example to say, hey, if you're struggling, why don't you share with us too? And let's help each other out.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it bears fruits in subtle ways for years and years to come. I don't know that I've even seen the real fruits of what that looks like, but there's going to come a time where one of them is in a struggle and they're going to know that it's okay to not be okay. And leaning on the people around you is important.
Yeah, it's okay not to be okay. Drew, this is awesome. I want you to step back and reflect. Think about what you're doing, what you've done, what you've gone through. How does what you're doing, how does it make you feel?
Yeah, the stuff that I'm doing today is, it's just exciting on all fronts. I come to the office. I enjoy it. Again, it's the exact thing that we wanted to build. And there's a lot more building to come, right? We're still in very much a building phase and creating new things all the time. But man, when you are working on things that you enjoy, it makes all the difference in the world. For me, freedom and flexibility is a big deal. So I can jump on this podcast and no one's waiting on me to be somewhere else. Like this afternoon, I'm probably going to go flying. So I'm going to duck out early and we'll get to do that.
I'll be driving up north a little bit, kind of towards Fort Wayne, but I'll be in Ohio. I didn't say you're in Fort Wayne. So I'll be looking for the paramotor flying over, Drew. I don't know if you'll get east, but I'll try to find it.
I'll go east today.
There you go.
It's an exciting time. And honestly, I think not just excitement, but just an unbelievable amount of gratitude for where I'm at. And compared to where I was 18 months ago, 24 months ago, to be able to stand here and share this and support other people who are maybe going through it in a similar way, which I really love doing and leaning into, just an incredible thing for sure.
Awesome. How can people find out more about your business, commercial real estate, Clear Sky Commercial?
Yeah. So clearskycommercial.com. That's it. You go there, you'll see my partner, Tyler, and I, you see the kind of things that we buy. And there may be some details about the fund and opportunities there, but our emails are there. Our phone numbers are there. If you want to connect, we're more than happy to have a conversation. Or if you just want to get together, talk about business, if there's ways that I can help support, other business owners, that really is, I don't want to say that's a calling per se, but I had good people carry me through that season when I not sure I could have walked through it by myself. And if I can help support others, I'm more than happy to do that.
Well, I think the key there is that we'll go through challenging times and we need help, and it's okay to need the help, and it's okay to ask for the help. And I think that's the thing that, you give credit to people for helping you, but you are very open and, recognize, hey, I probably need to talk to some people. I probably need some help during this time. So don't hold it in. Don't let your ego get in the way. If you are struggling, reach out to people, ask for the help. The other thing, Drew, is if people go to your website, can they find you flying? You're Betty the Butt fan?
They won't find it there, but if you wanted to find me online and see the fun pictures, Instagram's probably the place to do that. And I'm the Flying Investor.
The flying investor that flies around with Betty the Butt fan. Drew, this has been great. Man, I love what you're doing. I'm so excited for you. It's been really neat honestly, it's been just eye-opening and a great lesson for me to have this dialogue and discussion with you over the last couple of years, and to see where you're at today is just so rewarding and fulfilling. Man, I'm happy for you. I'm excited for you. And I'm so appreciative of you coming on the show, sharing your story, being really just open about it, and bringing a lot of lessons to people. So Drew, I appreciate it so much, man. For the Purpose Matrix, signing off.